welcome to the Elgin History Museum. My name is Liz Marston, and I'm the museum director, and I'm so glad that you're here. This is Dan Miller's talk on David Postle, a well-known Elgin architect. And so I want you to know that he's going to be talking I'm going to talk go this way because you're going to be talking with your microphone, and it should work. If you can't hear, please raise your hand and let us know, okay? All right, so Dan Miller is a preservation hero, as I just told him, and he has been a leader in preservation along with his wife Pat for the last 40 years, 35. I'm going to say 40. I'm going to say 40 years. And so he has been a leader. The reason we have historic districts is because of Dan and Pat. And the reason that we have design review, all of the things that you've come to know as Star Reality is because of these two people and their dedication. So please welcome Dan Miller.
I didn't know I was going to get an introduction, so I wrote my own introduction. You know, she said, if you can't hear, make note of it. You know, if I get up to 3 or 4 hours, just go like this to let me know to just sit down. The 3-hour point, just go like this and I'll sit down. My name is Dan Miller. Want to hear a little bit about me? Well, listen anyway. My wife says that Carly Simon's song, You're So Vain, was written about me and not Warren Beatty. So I will prove her correct tonight. I came to Elgin in 1975 because it was the only place where I could find a house that I could afford at $29,500, which is the house at the left. $29,500, 1975. Taxes were $500. My house payment was $250. But I still had to live check to check. I mean, I was only making $7,600 a year. So, first house in Elgin. Pat and I were married. We restored it together. We rehabbed it in 4 years and bought an investment property, as seen on the right, 259 Villa. We rehabbed it in 7 years and sold them both to buy our dream house, as seen at the bottom. It's our dream house. I walk down the aisle and I just say, I love this house. We spent 12 years doing an historically sensitive rehabilitation of that house. In 2010, we bought the house next door to us to control the neighborhood. Too many cars, too many people. They threw their dirty diapers over our fence. You know, just disgusting people. So we spent 4 years rehabbing it. You know, getting that inappropriate porch off, getting the aluminum siding off. It doesn't get any more satisfying than that. We didn't make any money, and I didn't get paid for my labor, but we broke even. I'm a preservationist, Elgin enthusiast, and old house nut. I've been a member of the Gifford Park Association for 45 years and have worked on all 43 house walks. I taught high school math for 33 years. When I retired in 2005, I started a woodworking business specializing in old house porches. My absolute better half is my wife, Pat. She is my mentor and my inspiration. We complement each other's skills. She can design and I can carry them out. After my fall, she became my amazing advocate. Anybody that's sick has to have an advocate. I'm an architecture enthusiast, so I really admire David E. Postle's work. I was very, very lucky to have a chance to work on several of his houses. Doesn't get any better than to work on one of his houses. With several different partners, he designed over 80 homes and buildings in Elgin, over 120 in Chicago, and many more with his sons in California. For centuries, famous, important, and successful men had mustaches. Here's further evidence. David C. Cook W. Bell, Henry Bosworth, Arlen Price, and Dan Miller. Successful, important men have mustaches. My daughter tells me every day, shave yours off. They're out of style. George Richardson came to Elgin in 1889 to become superintendent of the David C. Cook Publishing Company. Postle and Turnbull designed his home at 600 East Chicago in 1892. It was built at a cost of $6,500, which is $228,000 in today's money. It's currently for sale for $449,000. Google it, 600 East Chicago. Google it to see the interior pictures. It's really quite fascinating. Google it. While designing the home, he met Richardson's only child, 23-year-old Georgia. He and Georgia were married on October 24th, 1893, in the home of her parents. So they were married there. They lived with her parents until 1903. Can you imagine being married and living with your in-laws for 10 years? Can you imagine that? I couldn't. It was very common in those days. My father and his two brothers lived with their parents until they were set up with their own farm. My mother and father lived with his parents for 2 years while they were married during the Depression. You couldn't afford the in-laws, so you lived with the in-laws during the Depression. My mother hated it. She didn't get along with mother-in-law. Living with in-laws allowed him to save enough money to build a very nice house for he and his wife, which is just a block north of her parents' house. Current owner, raise your hand. We appreciate your keeping up the house. Although it was built as a duplex, there's a wall in the foyer that could be removed to convert it into a single-family home. Hint, hint. For many years, it was the home of city manager Sean Stagel. Check out David's signature of huge built-up brackets on the porch posts. You'll see many more of those tonight. The home has been featured on our house walk. I really think that architects weren't paid very much in the day. I think the only way that he was allowed to build this fancy house because he saved money by living with his in-laws. But W. Bell, Jensen, Smith Hogue, Turnbull, all lived in modest houses. They were making mansions for everybody else, but they lived in modest houses. I don't think they got paid well. It's a crime. Look at the interior stained glass on that house. Absolutely amazing. Amazing details on that house. In 1901, David collaborated with his father-in-law to build the David C. Cook Publishing Company. What a crime that the city allowed it to be torn down. Postle designed 12 Hill. You can see the drawings on the left. This home is a huge tribute to the preservation ordinance. A contractor approached the people with the classic scam of, I see dents in your aluminum siding. I can convince your insurance company to replace the siding for you. The homeowner agreed and the contractor took the siding off. When the preservation specialist saw that 99% of the original details were on the house under the siding, she told the contractor that he had to repair and replace the missing and deteriorated details. The insurance company and the city negotiated for over a year, and finally an insurance company agreed to do it. You can see big brackets under the porch. You can see a very fancy, unique water table board. That's basically a sheet where they write down all the costs to give an estimate on building the house. Very, very unusual water table board. I've only seen it twice, 56 North Liberty and 12 Hill, the two that Postle did. A big crown molding in the water table board. I love it. At the right is the house with the aluminum siding on it. That's what it looked like, aluminum siding. I worked with the contractor and remade many of the details. It doesn't get any better than working on a Postle house, bringing that back. We see aluminum siding people take things off to make them flat, to put on the aluminum siding. Like you can see, it had a keystone. Well, they aluminum sided over the siding and took the keystone off so that it would be flat. So we took off the aluminum siding and I put back the keystone. The insurance company agreed to give the homeowners new siding. They couldn't do the aluminum, so they put back very expensive cedar shingles. This insurance company was sorry that they got into this deal. A huge thanks goes out to the preservation ordinance and the preservation specialists for preserving this Postle treasure. You'll see over and over again these large sandwich brackets. Large sandwich brackets. Postle loved them. When you came in this building tonight, you saw that big hunk of cement on the left. I used that as my pattern to remake the built-up brackets for 12 Hill. The aluminum siding guy had taken them off to aluminum side. I put them back, and that big chunk of cement was my pattern. Postle designed the old Elgin City Hall. The tower was damaged in a tornado, so they took it off and then later decided to tear the whole building down. What a shame. That's where that parking garage is now. You know, yeah, they tore it down and made it a parking lot. It amazes me that Postle did not have a degree in architecture. W.W.A. Bell's degree was in engineering. Great house, Chicago and Liberty. Nice paint job. Interesting on Dexter. 2-unit, built as a 2-unit. Aluminum siding ruined it. This house, Postle used his creativity on the inside. It has amazing details. It has a staircase in the center of the house. It's just amazing, extremely unusual details on the interior. He used his creativity on the inside instead of the outside. Jackie Sedapani had a enclosed porch. She unenclosed it. Paul Bednar is doing a nice job of rehabbing that. He restored the upper balustrade. We appreciate your efforts, Paul. I would much rather have that Masonic temple than that bank. They tore down the Masonic temple and the bank is in its place. We have torn down, we have lost so much it just kills me to see what we've lost. Postle's wife, Georgia, was the head of the prohibition movement, the Dries, in Elgin. She estimated that there were 6,800 women eligible to vote in the township. The Dries won the referendum, 6,504, 5918. And 4,008 women were in the winning column. Women had turned the key that locked the saloon doors in Elgin. 237 Villa is another pat on the back for the preservation ordinance. On a Saturday, contractors were taking off the original siding with the intent to put on aluminum. I called the weekend code officer and he stopped the work. On Monday morning, they were told they could not take off the original siding and had to replace what they had taken off. Thanks, preservation ordinance. Preservation specialist for saving a Postle treasure. Again, I'd much rather have George Peck's store than that, whatever that is, that monstrosity. We tear too much down in Elgin. You know, you look at Steve Stroud's books, there used to be all the houses we've lost. Well, I'm your way. I'm in your way. Oh. Couple nice Postle. That's very familiar to everybody. Postle designed it. Notice the big brackets in the corners of the posts. It's his trademark. More big brackets in the corner of the posts. What a beautiful house. Pardon?
I always loved that. I didn't know.
Yeah, yeah. The Everett Apartments at the southwest corner of DuPage and Park Row were designed in 1899 by David as an investment for his father-in-law, George Richardson. This two-story brick neo-colonial building originally had 8 units. It was designed for teachers at the high school to live in. These teachers could walk across the street to work. It's now 16 units. It's one of the first Elgin multifamily residents to be called an apartment building rather than a flat. Designing the Everett may have been a good exercise for David's next big apartment complex in 1902. The Paddington in the uptown neighborhood of Chicago is 2 4-story stone and brick U-shaped structures built around courtyards. They do that a lot in Oak Park. I love that. Yeah. 23 of the renters bought their units when it was turned into condominiums. The Paddington in Chicago. Look at the detail on that. I wonder if he designed that, or is that something, you buy from a company? I don't know. Great details. Some simpler houses in Elgin. I'm not sure how much of the high school he designed, whether it was just an addition or the whole thing, but he had a part in Old Elgin High School, Postle. It's a fancy building. I mean, look at the details. In 1897, David and his brother Oliver were commissioned to design a pavilion in Lords Park to replace one that had just burned down. This new pavilion opened in 1898. What a wonderful asset to the city of Elgin. The city rehabbed it and built a basement under it. Thank you, City of Elgin, for keeping it. It was going to be torn down. We made a big stink about it, and they backed away. and rehab it instead.
What's that fountain?
Say it again?
Can we do a shout out on Sherry Buckstock's fountain?
Please do.
Shout out on Sherry
Sherry passed away a few years ago, but she was instrumental in getting that fountain back. .582 Park, I love it. I made the rails, the goosenecks for that house. Postle designed 5 churches in Elgin. To me, this guy had to have an office and he had to have lots of workers, lots of draftsmen. I don't know how you could put out this much stuff. I've never seen anybody say he had an office and he had workers, but he designed 5 churches in Elgin, 4 of them right in our downtown, 4 of those main churches downtown. Five churches in downtown Elgin. This is amazing. This was on the house walk last year. The inside and outside are spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. Very, very interesting. Very, very nice. Look at the detail on that church. And it's detailed inside also. If you missed the house walk last year, don't miss it this year.
What year is it?
Pardon?
What year is that?
Last year.
No.
Oh, I honestly don't know. I didn't do enough research. Yeah. I should have done more research. .616 Park, what a great house. This was on our house walk many years ago. This was on our house walk many years ago. Will Alexander. He took the aluminum siding off and repainted it. Thanks. This was on our house walk many years ago.
Judy Brown?
Yeah, it was Judy Brown's house. You old timers remember Judy Brown? Made quite an impact at the time.
You put lady window back in on the top.
She,
Maybe back to this, Brad for mayor.
yeah,
What?
yeah, she was just into everything. Just a real advocate. Downtown Judy Brown. 2 relatively plain houses. But look at the details on the right, those diamond windows, and another diamond, and a diamond right here. Look at that. Just little details that make such a big difference. Can you believe they tore that down to put those white garages in an apartment building? Beyond my comprehension. What, did that house start rotting away? So people figured it had to come down. Why would you do that? Why would anybody tear that house down by an important man? And look at what replaced it. Beyond my comprehension. This is close to DC Cook. Postle designed several residential houses close to the DC Cook factory. Aluminum siding. Needs a treectomy. This is going to be on the house walk this year. Don't miss it. Beautiful antiques, beautiful decorating. Don't miss it. September, is it 6th and 7th? 7th and 8th? Raise your hand. We love your house. Thank you, thank you, thank you for allowing us to be in the house walk. What a beautiful house and beautiful collections. We can't wait to show it off. Oh no, aluminum siding and a closed porch. Treectomy. Notice the big built-up brackets on Chicago Street. Notice the built-up brackets under the porch. Look at that little dormer. Isn't that cute? Chimneys. Look at that. This guy paid attention to detail. Oh my gosh, that's a water table board with a big crown. I never even knew it was there. I had never noticed that. That guy definitely had a front porch. Aluminum siding and porch removal. Oh no. Garfield School is now empty. McKinley School is now empty. We all have to write to our school board members and ask them to repurpose buildings like that. Please, please, please don't tear them down. People all over the nation are repurposing buildings like that for offices or residential, whatever, but please don't tear it down. Talk to your school board members. What a beautiful school. Look at the details on that. Look at the details he puts in there. And it's just a school. Look at that. Unfortunately, there's a yellow brick addition over here. Garfield School. Please don't come down. Aluminum siding. I'm not sure. Look at how the witch's cap bends up there. Look at that. Look at the brackets under the eaves. Look at the details on that house. This guy loved his little details. This guy must have been extremely creative. I mean, he didn't go to architecture school. Where does he learn about stuff like that? Where does he pick up stuff like that? I don't even get it. On the internet? He did have partners. Turnbull, Jensen. 802 Douglas. Is Heidi here? Heidi Schroeder. Single woman, limited means, rebuilds the porch and the back porch. She put the back porch back according to a picture. She got a Painted Ladies Award, and she's on her way to martyrdom for putting up with a very difficult painter. She got a very difficult painter to finish that house. She gets a martyrdom badge.
Oh, it's hiding for Jewel, the flower lady, Jewel.
Yeah.
Heidi Schroeder. On our house walk, beautiful on the inside and out. Look at the details on that. Look at that gable ornament. Look at the witch's hat. Mike Howell did a great job of restoring the porch. See those little finials? See them? I made those. What a lot of fun. You're so vain is correct. I can't help it. I can't help it. Oh, I forgot to say, there are 14 houses on Douglas designed by Postle. 14 houses. You know, that was the rich man's row at the time. So all these rich guys are getting together and having Postle design them houses. He designed that one and 13 others on Douglas. 14 houses on Douglas he designed. I made the goosenecks and the rails for that house. This one was on our house walk, wasn't it? I think so. Beautiful house. Look at the details. You just got to sit and stare at these houses. A lot of them, if you Google them, you can see the interior. That's fun. Look at those dormer windows coming to a point. Wow, wow, wow. 14 houses on Douglas. Councilman Stefan?
He's still here.
Pardon?
He's over there. It'll never be on.
They're here? Where's your hand? What's the right thing in your house? I'm glad I didn't say anything negative. I didn't know you were here. The one was on, I showed you before. I love the way the steps, instead of going up the front, go up the side, up to a landing. Very unusual. Look at the details. I don't even know where a man can come up with these ideas. 14 houses on Douglas. I think my camera scrunched that one.
That one was, crosswalk, wasn't it?
No.
No?
Cherie, was that her name? Sherry Murphy lived there for many, many years. City employee. Helped us out several times.
I confused it with the Tribbles.
Pardon?
I confused it with the Tribbles.
Notice the built up brackets in the corners, the porch posts. God, Postle likes those. In 1907, maybe it was 1905, not sure.
Between 04 and 07.
David and his partner, Henry Mahler, designed the Elgin Public Museum. Originally called the Lord Memorial Museum, it was funded by George P. and Mary Lord. It was built to house the extensive natural history collection of George Lord. What an asset to the city of Elgin. What a wonderful director of the building. Thank you for your efforts. So, anything more about the building?
Well, that's sure not how it looked for the first almost 100 years of it.
Yeah, big addition on the right.
Supposed to be originally supposed to be the east wing, the west,
Symmetrical.
and also the north wing. But that hasn't been done yet, so maybe you want to be right.
Wow. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You should all tour it. If you haven't toured it, you got to go in there. You got to go in there. It's in that pamphlet. Right? Yeah. Great. Do it. Do it.
And become a member.
and become a member. Now, the most fascinating picture in there is this picture of Elgin on the river, and they built piers with an outhouse at the end of the pier. Can you imagine what people downstream have to put up with if we're pooping in the river? I can't believe that happened. I have a friend that's into outhouses, and she's just fascinated with this. I can't believe they put outhouses right on the river. Beyond my comprehension. I love that picture. I've taken pictures of that. David's last Elgin construction, designed with partner John Fisher, was a 500,000 4- and 5-story addition to the Elgin National Watch Company in 1921. In today's money, that would be $8 million for this addition. I'm not sure what it is, but Postle designed a very large addition to that building. In 1910, he partnered with John Fisher with offices in the Marquette Building in Chicago. The City of Elgin directory listed him as living in Elgin, so he had a long commute on the train. He was commuting to Elgin. The Art Institute of Chicago gave us a list of 120 buildings Postle designed in Chicago. I Googled them all and found only 18 are left. There's one. Chicago, Postle. I would much rather have Monroe Theater than that monstrosity on the right. Again, everybody's tearing everything down beyond my comprehension. Look at that old theater. Look at how fancy that is. And I think they took buildings on the left and the right to make the monstrosity on the right. Nice building. Postle in Chicago. Interesting. Not as fancy as Elgin, but still interesting. He made a lot of factory/warehouse buildings in Chicago. I'm not sure what that was originally built for. Could use some paint. I hate glass block windows. I hate them. And then it's what, 2, 4, 5 units. Oh my goodness gracious. Lots of factories and warehouse. Not too attractive, David. The stuff on the left is probably added on. Sun Theater in Englewood. Hope it's still there. Lots of brick. When I Google these addresses, a lot of them were an empty lot or, a big modern building or factory. So they've been replaced. 120 buildings in Chicago. I could only find 18. I don't know if that's a factory or warehouse or what. Porch has got to go. I hate those modern balusters. I hate them. Glass block windows, I hate them. Beautiful building otherwise. They need a preservation ordinance. Glass blocks, what is this? Probably security. Can't break in your basement. In 1921, David moved his family to Los Angeles, California, and continued his successful career there, joined by his two sons. His Chicago business was transferred over to Fisher. The Postle boys both graduated from Elgin High School and the University of Illinois School of Architecture. W.W. Bell's son graduated from University of Illinois Chicago Architecture. So these are his California homes. Can you imagine having mountains in your back, out your back window? Look at that house. Wonder how you'd start a new business in a new city. You know, how do you tell people who you are and what you do? And it'd be nice to work with your own boys. They love their hedges. Nothing as nice as Elgin, but good for California. That could fit right in on Douglas. Yeah, as far as I know. A huge thanks goes out to David Siegenthaler from the museum for his help with this presentation. That man is amazing. The things that he knows, the things that he can find. Thank you, David Siegenthaler. Any questions or comments? Yes. Not that I know of. I haven't seen anything that they work together on. Yeah. All those guys. Smith Hogue, Turnbull, all those guys worked in the same era when Elgin was building big time. I've never seen W.W. Bell mentioned with Postle.
When did Postle pass away? What year did he die?
I had it in the beginning.
It was 34.
34?
I'm remembering from when you started.
Yeah. My short-term memory is shot.
Nice picture though.
'63 to '39. 1863 to 1939. Yes.
Are his sons still around during architecture? Yeah, business carrying on.
Pardon?
Are his sons still around during architecture? Apostles.
I honestly don't know. That's a good question. Yeah, I'll Google that. Pat?
I was wondering how many people here live in a Postle house that are here tonight.
How many Postle owners? Great. Great.
And we're working.
Any other questions or comments? What a nice house. Yes.
Does that house have some kind of, sun, window when you go inside? That was part of the roof or, some kind of skylight?
Yes.
Did you,
What does it look like?
just like the square patterns, just like the front door. It all matches.
Just, we'll go to the next one with the,
Here,
so
Here's
there's,
Deborah.
there's a stained glass in the front.
Any idea who designed this glass?
Part,
Any idea who designed that door, the stained glass door?
no, I would think he did, but I don't know for sure. Architects often do their own stained glass.
And you need to get this for your next
Yeah.
presentation.
Yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
I will ask you to send that to me. I don't have that. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Sharon.
Yes,
We put out here, we put many hours into all the research that you did to give us this excellent presentation. Hats off to you, Dan.
Yeah.
thank you. It is literally my pleasure, literally my pleasure. I'll get you. I'll get to, my only chance to be so vain.
It's literally so.
Questions or comments? Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate your coming out tonight.